The News Department of the Liberia Broadcasting System presents Face the Nation, a 30-minute package that highlights the work of public officials and other duty bearers of the society. Find out about their families, their upbringing, and discover details of their jobs in government. You can also hear from the lieutenants of the president about their role in driving the pro agenda for prosperity and development. It's Face the Nation. John Messi.
Hello and welcome to Face the Nation. Face the Nation is a 30-minute profiling and documentary interview done on ELBC Radio and Air and TV. My name is Jala Grayfield, and Face the Nation is a program that profiles government officials and prominent people in the society. And one of such prominent persons in the society is former Deputy Minister of Public Works and one-time Deputy Minister of Defense for Operations. His name is a household name in Liberia. If you know or you may not know, the name Jackson J. Paye is a prominent name in this country. As a matter of fact, he's an oriented civil engineer and administrator who served the Armed Forces of Liberia, yet the Republic of Liberia, in several prominent positions. He began his public service with the Armed Forces of Liberia in 1969. After the completion of the basic military training at the Tottenham Military Academy TMA, Todi, he was awarded a scholarship to study under the Army Student Training Program at the Booker Washington Training Institute. This day, I'm privileged to have him in our company to face the nation. Let me say welcome to you, Mr. Paye.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
How are you, by the way? Where have you been?
Well, I'm doing pretty well. I'm doing very, very well, thank God. And I'm here in Monrovia. Frequently, I go to Nima. That's where I spend most of my time. But I'm here, and I'm doing everything now to keep myself going in the private sector.
Oh, you are in the private sector?
Yes.
Now, you are a very good engineer. In the private sector means that you are also making some impact in the private sector during, as a result of your career as an engineer.
Certainly, I do. As you know, I'm a civil engineer by training and also have a degree in architecture, design, construction technology. So currently, I'm working for a company called Smart Pros.
Okay.
And we're doing the renovation of the EU delegation headquarters in Mamba Point, and I'm the lead engineer and the project manager for that project. And in addition, I have my own company, JJP, an associate design construction company, and we're doing some little renovation and construction works around town.
Do you think your services are still needed in the public sector? You have a long history of being in government.
Yes, I mean, there's nothing better than serving your people in a public capacity. I do very well in the private sector, but I can also do much better in the public service because there are a lot of needs now, and people tend to believe that Liberia will be built by other people, but that's not the case. We have to be here to help to build this country to where we want it to be, and our experience and work through this country and also in the United States will bring a different approach to public service.
Thank you for that. But who is Jackson J. Paye? I want to sit back for 5-6 minutes and listen to you. Who are you? Where do you hail from? Who are your parents?
Thank you very much. That's a long story, and I will be very brief. I'm from Nima County. I hail from Nima County, from a town called UAP Old Town. It used to be where I played Chieftain those days, but it's now Babli Statutory District, and it's part of Lower Nima County. Tabata is the headquarters. My parents were illiterate. My mother was from a town they call Male, which is in Bo and Quila. Then my father was from a town they call UAP, and that's where I was born. I began my early education there in 1962 when school first went to our home. That's the very first time school went to our home, and we were the first students, and I managed to stay there. And from there, after I graduated from the 5th grade, I left my town to go to Kanta, and I attended JL Pearson junior high school at the time. Elementary school now, I think it's a junior high school. So after my graduation, I joined the Armed Forces of Liberia with the intention of getting a scholarship. And that's precisely what happened.
So meaning you're a soldier man?
Yes, I started as an army man, and I got a scholarship to go to the BWI. And after my graduation, I continued with that scholarship while at the same time working at the Ministry of Defense at the University of Liberia. And therefrom, I served in so many capacities in the engineering department at the Ministry of Defense. Then subsequently, I was elevated in 1981 as Assistant Minister of Civil Works, and I just returned from the States.
At the Minister of Public Works?
No, at Defense.
At Defense,
that's where
okay.
I started. I was in charge of feeder roads. Most of the feeder roads in Bon County, like Camp Nama those days. Okay, all those feeder roads, Yowie, Fokole, all the roads, we built them. At that time, I was very young. And after I went to the States and came back, and I was assigned in Kolu. Okay, there's a road, originally the Bella Yala road was supposed to have been connected from Kolu to Bella Yala. And I was the engineer assigned on that road until I was elevated to Assistant Minister of Defense for Civil Works. And through that position, we were privileged to build so many housing units for the military. One of the reasons for the 1980 coup was the deplorable condition of the armed forces. So the U.S. government gave Liberian government money. It was a grant money called Military Assistance Program. And that money, I was basically in charge of that at the age of 29 to 30.
Wow.
Yes, and we were able to build.
Given such a Herculean task to
Yes,
perform.
and I'm very blessed to be surrounded by good people. At that time, I had some people that were in the ministry that guided us, and we successfully completed all of the military housing projects in PTC, in Camp Shefflin, Camp Nama, which was little unchanged to Camp Jackson, and then all of the major the county headquarters at the time. Each county headquarters was entitled to a military housing units. We built all of those. And I served in that position of distinction until later on I was elevated to the position of Deputy Minister of Defense for Operations. And the primary
Meaning you are claiming the loudest
yes,
possible.
I was, and one of the main achievements in that position was I was in charge of the new Minister of Defense, or proposed new Minister of Defense, which is now 540. And I was.
Well, you were there when that ministry was being built.
I was the brain behind that. Okay. Eric Cox was the architect, and I was the lead person for that particular project. And we went to Israel.
And I'm told it was done by the Israeli?
The Israeli, yeah. Yona International was the one that built that project. And it was a swap for logs and,
Okay.
for them to build it.
Resource swap, you mean?
Yes, the resource swap, that was the deal. There was some money involved, but I was mostly in charge of the operations of the ministry.
Okay.
To start it off, and then we designed it from scratch. And that building, I still don't know why it was destroyed, but it was one of the most, advanced buildings in Liberia up to, until the time it was destroyed. But that was it. And the intention was that it was going to be a military base. We also have a space down there that's supposed to be like an area that would be, if there's something that happens, people can go under there and seek refuge. So all of those things were put together. Unfortunately, when I left from the States in 2010, at that time it was already on the list to be destroyed. It was destroyed. And later, when I came from the States in 2010, my intention was not to serve in the government. So I started JJP and Associate Design Construction. So we built a lot of projects. Firestone was one of my biggest clients. I built some stuff for the Coast Guard base. Then I built some units for the security forces that were here at the time. So there were so many other things. The army barracks, the military, how they call it, hospital there, we built that. Then I was in that process of building Firestone housing units when I was appointed as Assistant Minister of Public Works in charge of rural development.
Okay. It was under whose administration?
It was
Ellen
Ellen Johnson Sirleaf's administration. And, you know, surprisingly, I know of Ellen. You don't
have any officials in government?
Not at all. And, you know,
don't it was because your work was speaking for you?
Exactly. This is why I always say that, you know, there was a young man who was the Minister of Public Works, Kofi Woods. I have not met him before. I didn't know him. I knew nothing about him. It was one time we met, and somebody introduced me to him. Then he said, but I know Minister Paye. He said, according to him, he said that when they were at the University of Liberia those days, they used to admire me as a young man serving, you know, in the government. So, I mean, that was the extent of the conversation. And he told me to bring my resume. I took my resume, and my intention was to get contract, and that was all I was aiming at. Yeah, that's
and
all.
Not knowing that you were getting a government job.
Yes, so I went to him on several occasions just to inquire about contract. Then he asked me, what do I want to do if he wants me to work in the ministry? So I said, well, actually, I don't want to work in the ministry. I can help you in any way. If you want any consultancy, call me on the telephone, I can give you some information. And that's how we did it. Until surprisingly, he had taken my resume and given it to the president. And surprisingly, my name was announced in the consultation. I was happy. Okay. And when I asked him, how did you know about me? Then he said, well, you know, we used to admire you when we were in school. And that's why I always say to young people, you can never tell who is looking at you when you're in public service.
So your conduct you speak for yourself.
Yes. When you're in public service, you can never ever know who is following you. And Mr. Kofi Woods is one of those young men that really, really surprised me by awarding me a position that I didn't ask him for.
Now, but suddenly you rose to the rank of a deputy minister.
Yes.
In the same ministry.
Yes. I mean, it's miracle. Well, I would say miracle, and also it was the way I performed. When I performed as a assistant minister, as a matter of fact, when Mr. Woods caused my appointment by the president, you know, then he resigned before I even got confirmed.
That was the irony.
Yeah, he resigned. Then when I went to him, I said, well, Mr. Woods, I don't think I need to follow through with this confirmation. I think he was living on Newport Street. It was in Newport Street, that first street, yeah. So then he said, but Mr. Paye, I know I'm not there, but I know.
Very principal man, Kofi Woods.
Yes. Then he said, I know that you are capable of carrying on in my absence. I didn't appoint you to serve me, but to serve the Liberian people. When you said that in the presence of some other young guys, you know, it was like a challenge. So I went back there and served. And through that service, I got elevated to Deputy Minister of Public Works, in charge of rural development and community services. And that's where I was until this government came in, and we were, you know, given the opportunity to leave.
To turn over to human resource.
Yes, so that's what we did.
And you never had the opportunity to come back.
Well,
now you are in the private sector.
Yeah, the thing is that, you know, government or life as a whole is a stage. When you are given a role to play, you play a role, and after the role is finished, you bow and take your exit, and exactly that's what we did.
Okay, so let me come back to your upbringing. You grew up in Nimba, and you say you started school in the 60s.
Yes.
Tell us about your early childhood days while growing up in Nimba. Were you one of those children who were born in a very good home, or you had some difficult start? Maybe helping your parents or some also work, you had to go to the farm to set trap. All of those, how was it like growing up in the interior?
The thing is, when I tell my children, they don't believe it. They don't believe when I tell them the things that we used to do. As a young child, 5, 6, 7 years old, how you have to walk, you know, to a village to find food to eat. How you have to fetch for yourself. How you have to, you know, set trap to kill, you know, some rodents, you know, for consumption. And when we were in school and were old enough to go to school, I was in school. My parents were poor, very, very poor. They were hunters. So we'll go way in the forest, during vacation time. They would kill animals, and the animals were towed up. The dry meat, we tore our hair. And I tell you, the last time I tell you this story, you don't believe it. We used to tow that thing on our hair from Europe. We'd trek for a whole day. We'd get to a town they call Yule. We'd spend the night there. Then from there, we'd pass through Yule. Then we'd go to places like Barpley or Lovely or Sahapley, depending on which of the areas we're going. Because we have to go to second Paye to sell the dry fish or the dry meat. Then we go to barn, then we sleep in a Lovely.
So meaning you used to follow your parents to go to the hunting bush, and after killing the animals, you dry it there and throw it in Kenya and bring it to the selling ground.
Yes.
Wow.
To be able to get money to buy a uniform, to be able to get money to buy what we call Scooby sneakers now those days. Now the irony is when you buy those things, you will not be allowed to wear them until on occasion. That's when you wear sneakers. So you 10 toes.
If you're on a Christmas day or New Year day.
Yeah. But,
so while you're trekking in the bush, you're walking with bare feet.
Yes. But God is wonderful. Those things, when I look at it today, it's a blessing because those are the things that made me who I am. Because you have to struggle for life. Even when I got on the Army scholarship, then everything became easier because I didn't have to pay school fees. Okay. So in fact, we were in the dormitory, they were paying us money. So we became, we were students, but we're wealthy now. We're getting about $23. $23, living in the dormitory. So
was that October time?
Yes, it was October time. It was on October.
Okay.
It was
and it continued on October.
Yes. Then when Tubman passed away, then it continued on October. But actually, life those days were challenging. Challenging is an understatement. But that's what we had. That's what. Then when I tell my children that, they don't believe it. They say, "Oh, Daddy, embellishing so we feel sorry for." I said, "No, that's the fact. That's how we came up." Our parents, if you read ABC as big as this, they don't know it. So when you came from school, nobody asked you to do your homework. Nobody encouraged you to do anything.
So how did they leave the village? What of these things?
It's just self-motivation and the desire to be better than what your parents are. And your parents too also let you know, I don't want you to be like me. I don't want you to continue making fun. I don't want you to be doing the things I'm doing. I want you to be better because there are people who have gone to school and left our home, and some of them came to Monrovia and were successful. So those are people that they want us to emulate their examples. So they didn't know about education, but they knew the value was there. Okay. So that's how I left. And it has to be, you have to have that self-determination as well. And one of the things that I still, up to today, don't understand is because my smartness, I didn't, it was something like I was born with it. I used to be so smart to the extent in 1 year I got promoted 3 times.
3 times in 1 year?
In 1 year.
So you didn't spend much time in school to graduate?
Well, to graduate in elementary school, not at all, but the rest of the other things you have to go through the process. But that's how it was. But it's somebody whose parents didn't know book, or the parent who doesn't have a brother that is a BSc degree holder, and how did he get to be that smart? It's one of the things that I still don't understand.
If you just joined us, this is Face the Nation. Face the Nation is a 30-minute profiling and documentary interview done at ERBC Radio and LNTV. My name is Jala Grayfield. Today we're hosting Mr. Justin J. Paye. He is a former deputy minister at the Ministry of Public Works, one-time minister at the Ministry of National Defense. He is a former soldier man, now a professional engineer. He hails from Nima County. Which tribe do you come from? Do you come from the Mano or the Gio or the Manigo tribe?
Well, I'm a hybrid of the Kran and the Gio tribe.
Okay.
Okay, there's a Kran tribe in Nima that people usually don't know about. There's a portion of Nima that is closest to the Ivorian border, towards the Grand Jiga side, let me put it that way. And there's an element, about 17 towns and villages along the Sestos River. That area is inhabited by Crown people. But my mother was a Gio lady from Paye in Mali. So that's what today when I look at the history and then I see some of the tribalism that is happening now, sometimes it amazes me because when we were living, when we were growing up, we didn't know the differences between the tribes. Because my mother spoke Kyo, she never spoke Kran. In our household, we spoke both Kyo and Kran. And people
So do you speak in both dialects?
Of course, I speak both of them, but not as fluently as I would love to because I left home early to go to school.
Okay.
And then nowadays, we are a victim of our time. For you to be successful, those days to get scholarship, you have to assimilate in the society.
Absolutely.
And then, the regime we were under then was American Liberian regime. I grew up also in Johnsonville, partially. So I lost the touch of the dialects. I can understand them very well, but to express myself as I want to, I cannot do it fluently in any of the dialects.
Now, Mr. Paye, how has your work as a public servant in the private sector impacted your people in Nimba? I'm thinking as to whether you want to serve Nimba County sometimes in the future, whether elected or appointed position whatsoever, or you want to stay there, live with the people. How has your work impacted the people of Nimba? Do you have ambition maybe for Nimba County? Just in 1 minute, I want to hear that.
Oh yeah. I want to serve my people. I want to work for them. In the past, I worked for presidents. Presidents appoint me. They appointed me as assistant minister, appointed me as deputy minister, and even superintendent.
Well, you said about superintendent?
Yes, of Nimba County during the war, yeah.
Under whose administration?
It was under Doe's administration. First, the last superintendent before the war in Nimba County.
Okay.
So it was during the war I was appointed, but it was during a very critical time. So I stayed there for a few months. My parents got killed because of my assignment. Yeah, my parents got killed.
Because you were a government official.
I was a government official sent there at a very critical time, and at the same time the war took on some form of it's not trouble because at that time it was not trouble because most of the people that did the fighting and killing, some of them came from our home and they were our cousins. So it might have been some other reasons that caused my parents to be victimized, but simply because I was serving as superintendent. So maybe they felt that I was representing the government. The government was far in Monrovia, and the closest people to them was my parents, so they got killed. And it didn't bother, well, if I say it didn't bother me, I'll be lying. It bothered me, but all I did was I prayed and made sure that those things that happened to my parents did not happen to others.
But do you think that Nimba owes you something, or you owe Nimba something that needs to be paid back to you?
I owe Nimba a whole lot. I want to give back to Nimba.
How do you give back to Nimba?
I want to give back in representing them in the House of Representatives.
Oh, you want to be?
Yes, that's what I want to do now. At this stage in my life, I want to be a role model for young people.
You want to go to the House of Representatives?
That's what I want to do.
In the ensuing 2023 elections?
2023, that's my desire. And I'm sure that we have done a lot of groundwork. I'm very sure that we'll have the support so that we'll get to that position.
Which district are you in there?
Well, right now we're in district number 6, electoral district number 6. But I don't know whether it will remain that way. But in any case, we want to serve our people. 1 kilometer of road, the cost, a lateral right road would be $60,000 to $100,000. And individual cannot build that. So the best thing to do is to use your influence to talk to people that have money, to talk to countries that have money. And that's what we're able to do. The programs are there in the government. The government has programs, but you have to have somebody who will know your area, that know the needs of your people, and then be able to advocate for those things. And that's what
so you are okram with the needs of the Nimba people.
Absolutely.
For which you represent.
Yes.
So let me ask you, who is Mr. Jackson J. Paye in terms of family? Is he a married man?
Yes.
Does he have children? Where is his family?
I'm married. I'm happily married. I have several children. Somebody told me one time as a man, you can't say I have 3 children because you can never tell.
Maybe say
Samuel told, he was joking one time when he said that. But yes, I have 4 children actually. And I I have about 7 grandchildren right now.
Wow.
Then
A proud grandfather.
yes, I'm a grandfather, and I'm happily married to my wife. She is not here right now. She came here the other day. She went back to the States. So we are
Who is she? What's her name?
Her name is Paye.
She's a Liberian.
She's a Liberian, yeah.
Okay.
She's from Cape
And the kids are all in America or here?
Well, I got kids here. I have the grown up ones are in the States. Yeah.
Okay.
The 3 of the boys are in the States. I got 1 boy here. I got a girl here.
So the woman should have a mistake because
well, that's why it's just several children. You can never say I have. You know, as a man, you cannot. A woman, yeah, you can be exact.
Yeah, but man can be exact.
For an African man, an African man alone, let me say it that way, because some of the things that people see here, whether African, you know, there's everything. I've lived in the state for 20 some more years. I know white people do the same thing that black people do here. The black Africans do here. So it's not strange. You know, for a man, I mean, it wouldn't be appropriate for me to encourage that, but a lot of times people do not know where to go. Like you young man, you hang around, you know, who are on campus, and so now when you're young, you do a lot of, you know, silly things. So things happen. And when I was on the road in Golu, I was not married then, so I don't know.
Where you left me at? So let me ask you further 2 questions. What is your hobby? What do you love doing after work?
I love tennis. I play tennis. Unfortunately now I can't play much because my niece, me, Clementia Ure, Dave Jala, Yao Kodaya, we used to play tennis all day long. And when I went to the States, I have a friend in the States, they call Lyndon Robertson. He and I would play tennis all day. I hate to lose. So we'll play until somebody drops. So that's what I do. I love swimming. Of course, there are not that many swimming pools. And then dancing, of course, I mean, that's my...
That's it.
Yeah, I love dancing.
You gotta go to the party.
Oh, yeah.
And when you do the party now, after work, after work, you go to the party, to go dance. Do you take some bottle of wine, maybe 2 bottles of beer?
Oh, yes, I do drink.
To end the day now?
I do drink liquor. I do drink wine, I drink beer. As a matter of fact, I drink cane juice. I'm not ashamed to say that because that's our locally brewed liquor.
Yeah.
But I do it in a way that does not harm me, that I don't, you know, go beyond my limit. So I'm a socialite. I'm a socialite. I like to hang out. I tell people I'm old, but I'm not cold, so I go hang out. You know, I hang with the young people.
He's old but not cold. He's old but not cold.
Yeah. So that's what
He's old but not cold.
No.
Former Deputy Minister of Public Works, Rural Development, Assistant Minister for Rural Development at the Minister of Public Works, former Superintendent of Nima County in 1991, and former Deputy Minister of Defense for Operations and Assistant Minister for Civil Works, MOD, as a Minister of Defense, has been my guest. His name is Justin J. Paye. He is a very good engineer in Liberia. He has been there facing the nation on this day. If you want to be profiled and documented as a government official or any prominent person in the society, please call us on this number, 0770 560 560. 0770 560 560. My name is Jala Griffin. Thanks to my producer, Andrew Gay.
The news department of the Liberia Broadcasting System presents Face the Nation, a 30-minute package that highlights the work of public officials and other duty bearers of the society. Find out about their families, their upbringing, and discover details of their jobs in government. You can also hear from the lieutenants of the president about their role in driving the pro agenda for prosperity and development. It's Face the Nation. John Messi.